Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim and this is Expedition 3 Pages. This is episode 2 of my TBR Jar challenge. And so yeah, we're going to pick book 2. In this series, in each video, I pick a book from this cup and I read it. And I gain points as I go along. If I get to 10 points, I get to buy myself a book. I gain points by either reading the book or DNFing the book or reading one of my 40 by 40 books. Those are the 3 ways I can gain points. And yeah, currently I have 1 point. But that's fine because I've only done 1 video so far. So hopefully at the end of this I will have 2 or more points. Along the way I'm keeping a note of any books that I might want to buy. And so when I get to 10 points, I will go through that list and see if I still want to buy any of those books or if I want to buy a completely different unrelated book to that list. So yeah, we'll see what happens when I get to 10 points, which is hopefully not too far in the distant future. Okay, so let's find out which book I'm going to be reading for this video. I'm always very worried about this. Okay, let's go with a green one. Let's put the cup over here and find out what it is. I already heard some of them fall out the cup there. Okay, let's find out what this one is. Oh, the Eyre affair. Oh no. This could potentially be a very quick first DNF of the series. The Eyre affair is by Jasper Fforde and I have it on Kindle. And I'll put it up here. It's not non-fiction, so we're not destined to always pick non-fiction like I thought it was going to go. The Eyre affair. Listen, I've heard this book is supposed to be really good and funny, and it's based on loads of different... From what I know, this is like me not looking anything up. I feel like it's him and he's based his story on loads of different novels, and so it relates back to loads of different kinds of novels. I don't know how true that is or if they're just character names or whatever. But yeah, my history of Jasper Fforde has not been great because I did read a book called The Constant Rabbit by Jasper Fforde, which... that book, I don't know, I have really mixed feelings about that book because when I read it, I really disliked it and I just didn't get on with it at all. I felt like his pun humour just was not on my level of humour. I just didn't get it. I got it, but I just didn't think it was funny. And yeah, I really struggled with it. However, that book, it has stuck with me. And almost whenever I see a rabbit, I think of The Constant Rabbit. Okay, maybe that's a bit over the top, but I do feel like it made an impression on me. Let's just say that. That whole story is about anthropomorphized rabbits, and it is so weird. It is so weird. So I'm worried about how I'm going to get on with this one, but I can DNF and I can still get a point if I DNF. So I will give it a go. And yeah, I'll check in with you when I've read some and let you know how it's going. Hopefully my mind changes and I do actually like it, but you know, who knows? I don't have good vibes, let's just put it that way. So I'm reading The Eyre affair and I just wanted to say that Thursday Next works for this literary detective kind of agency place. And she's just been saying that once you work in this place, you work there for the rest of your life, or you die, or you get promoted. And suddenly Turner, who's one of the top people, is saying that the other top person is eyeing Thursday Next up for Turner's job, because Turner's going to leave because she's just got engaged and she's off to be married. And I'm like, why can she not have her job and be married at the same time? I mean, I know this book is old, but guys, come on. It's not that old. Okay, so I was totally wrong about what the Eyre affair was about. I mean, I wasn't totally wrong, but I did get the wrong end of the stick. When I went back and I did some research into it, I realised, and obviously the name is The Eyre Affair, it's kind of based around Jane Eyre, rather than being about loads of different books, even though other books are mentioned in it. And so when I realised that, I realised I should probably read Jane Eyre first before getting to the Eyre affair, or at least reading them in tandem, because I have the Eyre affair on my 40 by 40 list and I think I would get more out of the Eyre affair if I have read Jane Eyre. So I've been reading Jane Eyre along with the audiobook and I'm currently on chapter 31 of that. So I've done, well, I'd say I've done really well. It has been a few weeks since I've the last clip, but that's mainly because we've had some stuff going on at home, so I wasn't able to read for a little bit. But yeah, I'm enjoying reading this with the audiobook for sure. It's just one of the ones on Scribd. I can't remember who the narrator is now that I'm listening to, but I will let you know who it is. So I've been reading this, like I say, I'm on chapter 31 or whatever I said just now. And then I've also been picking up the Eyre Affair on my Kindle. I actually dug my Kindle out and started reading it on here, and I find it so much easier on this little thing than I do on my phone, so I'm glad that I've done that. And I'm actually almost 50% of the way through that. And I have to say, there's a lot less Jane Eyre in it than I thought there was going to be. But I'm definitely happy that I'm picking up this, especially because this gives me an extra point when I finish this, because this is on my 40 by 40 list. So my impressions of the Eyre Affair since starting is kind of a bit of a mixed bag, really. I'm really interested in the story. So this is kind of I don't know, it's not really futuristic, it's like an alternative world. It does feel quite dated, but then it also has those little elements of a little bit magic, a little bit steampunky, machine. It is more sci-fi, I guess. Because there's a bit of travelling through time and machinery that does magical things, but it's actually, I guess, science over magic. So yeah, I guess it is a sci-fi. And I'm actually quite interested in that world, and I'm taken into the mystery that we've been brought on. There's a few things going on, but mainly there's one bad guy called Hades that we're kind of trying to find and get and find his secrets and stuff like that. Yeah, there's kind of a few things going on that has captured my interest. So it's very political feeling as well, because there's lots of talk about the war, there's lots of talk about people's attitudes. I guess it's a satire because Jasper Fforde is also using like different groups of people and their views and how that affects society and the arguments that can happen, but he's kind of based it around art and literature. And, you know, there's people that really believe that Francis Bacon wrote the Shakespearean plays, and there's people who think they're stupid for thinking that, and then there's people who are for the Renaissance, and then people who are against it, and like surrealism. I don't know the differences, and I'm getting confused, so don't hold me to that. But yeah, something about art movements. To be honest, I don't love those bits. I do kind of see what he's getting at with it, but I'm more interested in the actual story about Thursday Next, and finding out what's going on with her and her past with her ex. I'm quite interested in, and they're chasing after this one bad guy and trying to solve a bit of a murder, trying to solve murder as well at this stage. So I obviously don't want to say too much because I don't want to give things away. It's quite fast paced, so once you're in, it does go along quite quickly, and it is a fun read. But just to my personal taste, I'm not loving the little literature kind of jokes or the art jokes. I don't know, it's just not my thing. I don't really find it funny, but it's not taken away from the enjoyment too much. It's just when they go on maybe for a few paragraphs going over this thing, I kind of roll my eyes a bit and then move on. But I know that's just personal preference, and that's just not the kind of humour that I'm into. But on the whole, I'm enjoying it a hell of a lot more than I thought I was going to, which is really good news, especially because when I pulled it out, I felt my heart sink. Definitely the gags and the puns are not as jarring as the Constant Rabbit that I read of his. I found those to be even more annoying, to be honest. What a downer, I don't like the jokes. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to carry on, and hopefully I'll update you. Well, I'll probably update you when I finish the Eyre Affair, and by that point I should have finished Jane Eyre as well. So yeah, I shall keep you posted. But it's definitely going better than I thought it would. Hi guys, so it's now the 31st of July, so it's probably been quite a long time since I last updated you, but I have now finished both Jane Eyre and also The Eyre Affair by Jasper Fforde, which is the whole point of this little video. I'm really glad that I read Jane Eyre before reading this, or at least at the same time as reading this, because there is a chapter towards the end that basically goes through the whole synopsis of Jane Eyre. So, I mean, in that respect, it kind of doesn't matter if you haven't read it because it tells you what happens in Jane Eyre, but also it spoils Jane Eyre. So yeah, there's that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the Eyre affair first, and then I'm going to have a little spoilery... Oh, it's gone on to the next page. And then I'm going to have a little spoilery section about Jane Eyre, the book, at the end. It's not going to be long, but I just have a few things I want to say about this that does involve spoilers. So the Eyre affair by Jasper Fforde. I've ended up giving this a 3, maybe a 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it for the most part. However, there were things that I found kind of annoying, even though they were quite inventive and fun. And I guess it depends on what your kind of humour is, if you like the things he's making fun of or if you have no interest in it. So if I haven't gone over the synopsis of this yet, you're following Thursday Next, who lives in an alternate universe, so lives on Earth but in an alternate world. So it's set in the 1980s in this alternate universe, which is a little bit steampunky, it's a little bit futuristic in a way, even though it's set in the past, in our past, because it's very inventory. There's lots of weird kind of magical inventions going on. They're in the middle of this big war that has been going on for 131 years, where they're at war with Russia over a piece of land that they both want. It's essentially the Crimean War. And Thursday has previously served in the army and has gone through her horrific experience, but now she's back from that and she is currently working for Spec Ops, which is this special kind of operative service that investigates things that the police don't investigate, I guess. So they just specialise in different types of crimes, and Thursday specialises in crimes involving books. So if someone steals an original manuscript, then she will go out and find that person, stuff like that. Her level of Spec Ops is 27, so it's quite far low down. She doesn't get much respect for being a Spec Ops 27. The lower the number, the more important you are. But then one day, quite early on in the novel, she kind of gets called up to help with a crime on one of the higher levels. And yeah, she gets roped into this big crime mystery that's going on, or this big hunt for this one person. Jasper Fforde's writing is very light-hearted, it's very full of puns, and in this world he has created big divides and big political divides between people who like different types of art, people who believe that Shakespeare wrote his plays, and people who believe that Francis Bacon wrote his plays, and he's kind of turned it into this big cultish religion type thing, so that people will come round, instead of being a Jehovah's Witness, will knock on your door and will try and convince you that Francis Bacon is Shakespeare. So he writes all these silly little things intertwined in his story, which for me kind of fall a little bit short because I'm just not interested in that type of thing. That's not, I don't know, it's just not my thing, so yeah. But he does play around a lot with time travel in this, and he does it, I think, in a really interesting way. And there's actually one scene towards the end of the book which I thought was really fun. I won't go into it, but it does involve time and how time moves, and it was just such an interesting thing to think about, and I really enjoyed that. Even though it, like, you know, it brings up so many more questions than it does answers, but I just thought it was really fun, and every time time came into this book, I found it really interesting. I would say the synopsis for this really focuses on the fact that you can go into novels. So you do know that kind of going off the bat, that it's a possibility, but I would say that it doesn't really happen so much at the beginning of the book, so I won't really talk about it. But it is also an interesting thing to think about. Imagine if you could do this and what it would mean. And again, like the time travel, I do think it kind of brings up a lot more questions than answers, but it's fun to think about. It's just a fun book, I think. And I had a really good time with it. I enjoyed this much more than The Constant Rabbit, let's put it that way. And I am now also thinking, because this is a series, now I'm wondering if I want to pick up the second book, which is good, but it's not on my TBR and I don't want to buy it. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe in the future I will read it. I don't know. I think if you're in the mood to just read like a quite light-hearted, fun, fast-paced crime book, I would recommend this. And yeah, like I say, you either get on with his humour or you don't. But I think even though I know that I don't really get on with his humour, I still enjoyed the story. I thought the story was really interesting, even though I knew what was going to happen most of the time. I didn't know everything that was going to happen, but I felt like the end of the book I knew what was going to happen right from the start. You could kind of piece it together pretty easily. I felt like it was pretty obvious what was going to happen, but that wasn't really the point. It was like the fun of seeing it played out with what happened. And I definitely think you'll get more out of it if you read Jane Eyre, for sure. Even though Jane Eyre doesn't actually come up in this as much as I thought it was going to. So yeah, I enjoyed this. 3.5 stars I'm giving it, and I can't give it away or keep it because it's on my Kindle, so I guess I am keeping it because it's just there forever. Another success, so that's good news. Although all these books are on my TBR, so I suppose the likelihood is I'm gonna like the reads, you know? So before I talk about my spoilery Jane Eyre thoughts, I just wanted to update you on how things are going. So 1 second, I didn't prepare for this. Okay, so my stats after the end of this video. Well, I've gained an extra point for reading The Eyre Affair successfully. I also actually gain a point for reading Jane Eyre because this was on my 40 by 40 list. So that is 3 points, clocking it up. And I have actually finished another 40 by 40 book since I started this vlog, and that was Sula by Toni Morrison. So I have another point here. So yeah, I have a grand total of 4 points at the end of video 2, which I think is great. I'm really happy with that. Even though this has taken me quite a long time to finish The Eyre Affair, I feel pleased that at least at the end of it, I have 4 points and not only 2 points. And I'm not going to tell you what they are yet, but at the moment I have 6 books on my possible want to buy list. So when I get to 10 points, I will go through that list with you and work out which one I want to buy. But there's already 6 books on it, and I don't think, like, I've been quite exclusive about what I put on that list because I know I'm going to have to choose one at the end of it. So there has definitely been more books than those 6 that I have wanted to buy. So I'm restraining myself. It's definitely getting more difficult now though, because, you know, it's been quite a while and I just really want to buy a book. But anyway, I can do it. I've already got 4 points. I only need 6 more and then I can buy a book. And what's nice about this is it actually is really pushing me to read my 40 by 40 books, which is great. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to chatting about Jane Eyre just very quickly. So if you don't want spoilers for Jane Eyre, then yeah, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, Jane Eyre. I don't really have much to say, but I do want to say the Rochester, listen, I did not like Rochester one little bit. I felt like he was manipulative. I felt like he was using Jane just to make himself feel better. I didn't believe that he loved her. Like, to be honest, I felt like he was just so desperate to just move on with his life that he just, you know, just would marry her just to try and feel like something has happened. And obviously he wanted to whisk her away to the continent and just go and live a life with her. Was it to the continent? Anyway, whisk her away somewhere and just go and live with her away from his actual wife. And yeah, so I just didn't like him. And also he was so intense. Like, what was his problem? Why was he pretending to her that he was going to marry Miss Ingram? Like, what was that about? Like, just, mate, you know, I don't know, I just felt like everything was so manipulative, and she's so much younger than him as well, so he already has so much control that, yeah, when she left him, I was actually quite pleased about it, and I was like, yeah, go mate, just leave him alone, and just, you know, whatever. Actually, I will give you, well, it's not really a spoiler for The Eyre Affair, but The Eyre Affair, the start of that book, they talk about Jane Eyre, and they talk about the ending being the fact that Jane runs off with St. John and doesn't go back to Rochester. Yeah, so that's like right at the beginning, you learn that. So actually, I didn't know what the ending was, because obviously that's not the ending of the book. I was like, huh, okay, interesting. Like, is she going to go off with St. John or is she going to stay with Rochester? But yeah, so as you know, she goes off and she like stays with these random people that she finds, and then they turn out to be her cousins, and then she gets loads of money and, you know, just stuff that would just never happen. But I liked the drama of that, and also you had to move the plot forward, I guess, but it was a bit ridiculous. But St. John, he was like 10 times worse than Rochester. So I was like, what the hell? What is with these men that Jane meets? Like, these people are just crazy. How intense he was about wanting her to like leave and go to India with him, and how he just wanted her to marry him and just wouldn't take no for an answer, and how intense he was and how kind of miserable he was. I was just like, no. So when she went back to Rochester and he, you know, you kind of learn, like, or I learned at that point that he did actually love her and he was like waiting for her, and obviously everything that happened with him. I was actually pleased at that point because I thought, thank goodness she's gone back to Rochester and he's actually someone who cares about her, because St. John, St. John, whatever. I find it weird that they say St. John, St. John anyway. But yeah, I was just so pleased that she just left that guy, because he was even worse than Rochester, because I guess he didn't care about her and he only cared about himself. So even though he was also similar to Rochester in that he was very pushy, without any kind of care about her at all, he was even worse. So yeah, in the end, I am happy that she went back with Rochester. I was happy. I did like as well, you know, that she was happy to be with him and, you know, help him feel more positive about his situation that he was in. I did think that was good. I don't think I fully realised when I was reading this book, but I learnt this in the introduction, was that the actual Mrs. Rochester who was in the attic, well, I knew that she was from the Caribbean, Jamaica, isn't she? Yeah, she's from Jamaica. And I didn't realise that she had both a white and a black parent, but in the introduction they said that, and then they kind of mentioned the racism that is in the book, because, you know, just kind of thinking she was treated so badly by Mr. Rochester partly because of his racism towards her. And that did put like a little different spin on the book, and I obviously felt differently about it, because it does put things in a different light. I mean, it's bad enough that he treated his wife with severe mental health difficulties like that, but obviously at the time that's how people were treated, and he, I guess, felt he was being kinder to her by keeping her safe where she was. But then you add like racism on top of that as well, and it's just even more worse. But I do like that Jane does say to him at one point, you know, you're treating her badly. You know, it's not her fault that she's like this. So I suppose at least Jane was the voice of reason a bit in that. But anyway, weirdly enough, I am going to be reading The Wide Sargasso Sea, I think next week or the week after, because this is the next book club pick for my friends and family book club. And this is the story of Mrs. Rochester. I'm really interested to read this now, just to get more of like a backstory from her perspective. And obviously it's not written by Charlotte Bronte, but yeah, I'm just really interested to see how much detail this goes into and how it is a story that sets up Jane Eyre. So yeah, I'm happy that I'm reading this so soon, actually, and it's just nice that all this has come up together, which is good. It's a bit of a like Jane Eyre overdrive. Anyway, those are my main thoughts I had about Jane Eyre. I just wanted to express my dislike for Mr. Rochester, but then my turnaround at the end. So yeah, that is the end of this video. I would love to know your thoughts on Jane Eyre and what you thought about it. If you read The Wide Sargasso Sea, I would love to know if you thought it was good and your thoughts on that. And also, obviously, the Eyre affair, the main guy of the video. Have you read the Eyre affair and did you like it? What were your thoughts? And if you've continued reading the Thursday Next series, did you enjoy those books as well? Okay guys, I'm going to go now and pick my next book from the TBR jar, but that is going to happen in the next video. And yeah, so that's everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Take care everyone. Bye!